My friend, let us begin by putting aside a dangerous illusion, the belief that discipline is the result of motivation. We have been taught to wait for inspiration, to seek the spark, the mood, the right energy before taking action. But I tell you now, motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the wind. And if your life depends on it, then your life will be as unstable as the weather. Discipline is not motivation. Discipline is self-respect. It is the choice to do what is right, even when it is not easy, even when no one is watching, even when every part of you cries out for comfort, for escape, for rest. I learned this lesson not from books or philosophy, but from a man named Thomas. He was a miner from the north, rough hands, weathered face, a life hardened by labor and loss. He never attended university. He never spoke of dreams. But there is something in Thomas that struck me deeply, an unshakable sense of order, of honor, of dignity. He woke each day at 4 in the morning, rain or frost. He would walk an hour to the mine. He did not complain. He did not boast. He simply went. One evening, I stayed in his village to give a lecture. Afterwards, I visited his home. It was small, bare floors, dim candlelight, a pot of tea warming on the fire. He welcomed me as though I were family. I noticed his boots, worn but clean, placed perfectly by the door. His tools were lined up with care. The children's books were stacked neatly on a shelf. Everything had its place. I asked him, "Thomas, how do you keep such order after such long days?" He looked at me, quiet, thoughtful, and said, "Because I have little, sir, but what I have I must honor." That sentence has never left me. He did not clean because he was motivated. He did not walk in the cold because he felt inspired. He did not teach his children to read because of some burst of passion. He did it because he respected himself and his role in the world. Discipline, for him, was not punishment. It was pride. He told me how his father drank himself into poverty, how his brothers left the mines bitter and broken. I could have followed them, he said, but I decided that my children would see something different. Not because I felt like it, because I owed it to them and to myself. Now listen carefully. That, to me, is the highest form of discipline. Not the athlete chasing a medal, not the writer chasing fame, but the man who shows up for his life every single day out of respect for his values, his responsibilities, and his name. You see, when you truly respect yourself, you begin to act differently. You stop breaking promises to yourself. You stop waiting for ideal conditions. You stop negotiating with weakness. You don't need fireworks to begin. You need conviction. Thomas did not rise each morning because he was driven by a grand vision. He rose because he knew that to neglect his duties was to insult his own soul. That, I say again, is discipline. Not driven by feelings, driven by self-respect. And so I ask you now, do you live in a way that honors your potential? Or have you allowed your standards to shrink until they no longer challenge you? Have you made comfort your master? Or have you chosen character? Because motivation is a feeling, but discipline, that is a decision. And a man who decides to live with dignity, even in silence, builds a legacy louder than words. Let us not wait for the right emotion. Let us act from the right principle. Let us begin, not when we feel like it, but when we remember who we are. Now let me take you further, not into a mine, but into a library. Not a place of physical hardship, but of inner struggle. I want to tell you the story of Eleanor, a young woman with a mind full of ideas and a heart full of doubt. Eleanor was the daughter of a teacher. From a young age, she was bright, remarkably so, her memory sharp, her reasoning precise, and her hunger for knowledge relentless. She had the kind of mind that could devour a book in a day and recite its arguments with better logic than the author himself. When I met her, she was just 22, living in a cramped room above a printing house in London. She was working as a typesetter by day and trying to become a writer by night. She dreamed of writing essays on philosophy, on education, on society. Not for fame, but for change. She believed words could shake the world. I agreed, but there was something that held her back. It wasn't laziness. It wasn't ignorance. It was self-doubt, the kind that hides behind good intentions and noble excuses. She would sit at her desk each evening with the ink ready and her thoughts boiling. But before she could write a single line, she would second-guess herself. Is this good enough? Who would care? I'll wait until I've read more. I'm not ready. She told herself she needed more research, more clarity, more time. So she filled notebooks with quotes, pages with outlines, and margins with brilliant questions, but no answers. Nothing finished, nothing sent. I visited her one afternoon and found her in tears over a half-written draft. It was an extraordinary essay, passionate, sharp, necessary. But she was ready to burn it. I asked her why. She said, because I wasn't inspired when I wrote it. I forced it. It feels dishonest. I told her something then that I will tell you now. Discipline is not dishonesty. It is devotion. In that moment, I realized what Eleanor was waiting for. She was waiting to feel worthy. She believed that the fire of her ideas must burn constantly, that every act must be inspired or it was inauthentic. But the truth is this: the most meaningful work is often born in the quiet, in the doubt, in the discipline to keep writing even when the soul is not singing. I asked her to read the draft aloud. She resisted, then gave in. As she read, something changed. Her voice steadied, her spine straightened, and when she finished, she looked at me, not with pride, but with clarity. It's not perfect, she said. No, but it's true, and that's enough. That day, she made a vow, not to wait for inspiration, but to write daily without excuse. 1 page a day, whether brilliant or bland, no matter. She would write it, and she did. Some days were painful. The words came like stones. But other days, unexpectedly, she caught fire. Not because she waited for it, but because she showed up for it. Over time, she became what she had feared she wasn't: a writer. Her essays were published. They were debated in halls of learning, and they touched lives. Not because she was always inspired, but because she was disciplined. And let me be clear, her discipline came not from pride, or pressure, or praise. It came from respect. Respect for her gift. Respect for her readers. Respect for her mission. That is the foundation of true discipline. Not fear, not comparison, but reverence for the work, for the self, for the brief and brilliant time we have on this earth. Now, I ask you, are you waiting to feel ready? To feel brilliant? To feel worthy? You must not. You must act because you matter, because your time is short, and because respect demands it. There's a kind of suffering that comes from not living up to your own standards, a quiet, gnawing shame. You cannot silence it with entertainment. You cannot numb it with comfort. It grows each time you abandon your duty to yourself. But there is a joy, a strength, a deep and steady confidence that comes when you begin to honor your path. Not perfectly, but persistently. Eleanor taught me that inspiration does not produce discipline. Discipline invites inspiration. It is the showing up that unlocks the flow. It is the daily work that calls the muse. It is the act of self-respect that gives birth to greatness. So I urge you now, start the page. Clean the room. Run the mile. Build the habit. Not because you feel like it, because you owe it to the best in you. Let others chase emotion. You chase excellence. Let others worship motivation. You build character. And when you feel empty, when the fire is gone, when the days are gray, show up anyway. Because discipline is not noise. It is the quiet voice that says, I will not quit on myself today. And that voice, when repeated, becomes unbreakable. My friend, we have spoken of procrastination, of fear, and of self-doubt. We have looked at Edward, who waited too long. We have honored Mary, who acted with nothing. And we have walked beside Eleanor, who learned that discipline is not cold duty, but sacred self-respect. Now let us gather all of this into one truth. Discipline is the highest form of love you can show to your future self. It is not punishment. It is not harshness. It is alignment between your values and your actions, your potential and your path. So many chase motivation. They ask, how can I stay inspired? But I ask you, do you wait to feel inspired to brush your teeth? To eat? To bathe? Of course not. You do it because it is necessary, because it is right, because to neglect it would be to turn your back on your dignity. Why then do we treat our goals, our life's work, our health, our character, as optional? Why do we wait for emotion to carry us when we have the power to walk on principle? Motivation is fleeting. It burns bright and then fades. But discipline is the quiet engine, the slow, steady beat of a heart that knows its duty. It is waking up when the bed is warm and the world is silent. It is opening the book when the mind is tired. It is putting your phone down and picking your life up. It is saying, I do not serve my mood, I serve my mission. That is the mindset that changes lives, not just yours, but those around you. Because when a person begins to live with discipline, they radiate something rare: integrity. People trust them. Opportunities follow them. The world makes room for them. Why? Because we are all starving for dependability in a world full of noise, of drama, of excuse. The disciplined man, the disciplined woman, they shine without shouting. They are noticed without performing. They command without demanding. And the root of that power is self-respect. When you begin to treat your time, your mind, your body, and your word with reverence, everything changes. You stop tolerating the unnecessary. You stop negotiating with laziness. You stop making deals with distraction. You begin to walk straight. You speak less and mean more. You build, not wish. You endure, not escape. You create, not consume. And yes, there will be days when it feels like no one sees it. When your work feels unseen. When the road feels long. But let me tell you this. The fruit of discipline is invisible at first, but it is growing, always growing. It grows in silence, in the muscles that form from repetition, in the skills that sharpen through practice, in the confidence that builds one small decision at a time. You will wake up one day and realize you're no longer chasing greatness. You have become it, not by accident, not by force of personality, but by the quiet, steady, relentless choice to honor yourself, even when no one clapped, even when no one watched. That is what I call character. So, if you remember nothing else from this message, remember this. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is its foundation. It is not the absence of feeling. It is the triumph of choice. It is not harsh. It is holy. It is not just something you do. It is someone you become. So go now. Act not from mood, but from meaning. Not from hype, but from honor. And when the noise of the world tempts you to quit, to scroll, to numb, to delay, listen instead to the still voice inside that says, I am worthy of effort. I am worthy of excellence. I will not abandon myself. That, my friend, is discipline. And that is the beginning of everything great. Samuel smiles.